Good morning. Now that our executive session is complete, we turn to the issue of data breaches. Data breach is not a new issue for the committee to explore. In fact, the committee has been focused on the consumer impact of data breaches since before I was elected to the United States Senate. The September 2004 Choice Point breach, what many consider to be the first high-profile data breach of the modern era, prompted a number of investigations from this committee, from the FTC, and from federal and state authorities. For those that don't remember, Choice Point was a data aggregation company originally created by Equifax, who, as fate would have it, is represented here today. In terms of the trajectory of congressional inquiry into major data breaches, you might say we've come full circle. In the intervening years, Congress, and this committee in particular, have paid close attention to data breaches big and small. In addition, the committee has entertained a variety of proposals to strengthen data security requirements for companies across the board, as well as to impose federal requirements for affected companies to notify their consumers following the discovery of a breach. Sadly, we're truly in the era of major data breaches. These include the large-scale breaches at Equifax and Yahoo that we are examining today. While the Yahoo breaches are larger in terms of affected consumers, the Equifax breach is potentially much more severe given the sensitive nature of the consumer information compromised. In fact, I've heard from many constituents in South Dakota who are concerned about the lasting effects of the Equifax breach. I've also heard complaints that it is difficult to set up a credit freeze and questions about whether credit monitoring is an effective tool to prevent identity theft. The Equifax breach reportedly exposed the sensitive personal data of about 145.5 million U.S. consumers, including their names, social security numbers, birth dates, addresses, and in some cases, driver's license numbers. Also exposed were the credit card numbers for more than 200,000 U.S. consumers and dispute documents containing personal identifying information for more than 180,000 U.S. consumers. Today, Equifax will have an opportunity to provide an update regarding the breach, as well as its much-criticized efforts to mitigate the harm and prevent anything like this from happening again. The Yahoo breach we will discuss today compromised over 3 billion user accounts and followed a prior breach in which hackers stole similar types of information from at least 500 million users. The compromised data included names, telephone numbers, dates of birth, partial passwords, unencrypted security questions and answers, backup email addresses, and employment information. The 3 billion figure constitutes the entirety of the Yahoo Mail and other Yahoo-owned accounts at the time of the breach. Today, Yahoo representatives will have an opportunity to provide an update regarding these breaches, as well as efforts to mitigate the harm and ensure the security of consumer data going forward. The massive data breaches at Equifax and Yahoo illustrate quite dramatically that our nation continues to face constantly evolving cyber threats to our personal data. Companies that collect and store personal data on American citizens must step up to provide adequate cybersecurity, and there should be consequences if they fail to do so. The committee's made cybersecurity a priority, and I'm hopeful that today's hearing will help the committee to better understand these challenges as it considers legislation to address data breach notification and data security issues. When there is a risk of real harm stemming from a breach, we must make sure that consumers have the information that they need to protect themselves. That's why I support a uniform federal breach notification standard to replace the patchwork of laws in 48 states, in addition to the District of Columbia and 3 other territories. A single federal standard would ensure all consumers are treated the same with regard to notification of data breaches that might cause them harm. Such a standard would also provide consistency and certainty regarding timely notification practices benefiting both consumers and businesses. In order to ensure that businesses secure information appropriately, I've also advocated for uniform, reasonable security requirements to protect consumer data based on the size and scope of the company and the sensitivity of the information. However, in this regard, the facts of the Equifax breach are particularly troubling. As a credit bureau, Equifax was already subject to the safeguards rule under the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, which is considered to be a stringent regulation. Nevertheless, the Equifax breach occurred, and its implications on American consumers appear dire. Enhancing security and protecting the personal data of American consumers will continue to be a priority for this committee. So I want to thank all of our witnesses for appearing here today, and I look forward to hearing your testimony. I'll now turn to Senator Nelson for his opening remarks.